Bismillah wa salatu wa salam ala rasulina. So the topic of this video today is Hijrah warning. It is not to discourage anyone from making Hijrah, but rather to bring to light some of the unseen or unconsidered, unanticipated aspects about making Hijrah that most people overlook due to inexperience and ignorance. So the main issue with Hijrah that is problematic today is the fact that there are no Ansar. The Ansar are actually almost zero. If you recall, from the time of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, the Muslims in Mecca did not simply pack up and leave and said that we're just going to live in this out in the desert, or we're going to live in this other town or village. But rather what they did was they sent out emissaries, scouts, to feel out the process, feel out the environment for different regions to determine if they could find people who were going to be receptive of them making Hijrah. One of the first places they found, one of the places that they eventually found was Habasha, East Africa, and which is I guess now considered Ethiopia. Upon finding Ethiopia, they sought permission from the king, Al-Najasi, and he gave them explicit permission to live under his kingdom, under his protection, and he gave them explicit freedom to practice their religion. There was no restrictions on them. Similarly, eventually, the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ found Taif. Actually, he found Yathrib, and the people of Yathrib, Allah created the environment such that not only were they willing to allow him to come and practice his religion freely, but they wanted to give him authority over them, which is phenomenal in and of itself. So we have two examples now for Hijrah. In both of these examples, explicit permission was sought and gained for the people to either practice their religion freely within the country that they were making Hijrah to, without restriction, or to give them actual authority, as was the case in Yathrib, which eventually became Medina al-Munawwara. The problem today is that there is no government, Muslim or otherwise, except maybe one or two, and we'll get to that in a second. There's no government today that does this. You go to their embassy and they say, hey, look, I want to move to your country for the purposes of getting the freedom to practice my religion. Can you stamp my passport, please? All right, there's no Hijrah visa. So today when people try to make Hijrah, whether it's to any of the countries in the Gulf, East Asia, Africa, each of those governments and those countries, they see you as a foreigner who's coming there for one of the already pre-designated purposes that they have decided people can move to their country. And it's typical reasons like tourism, business, study, medical. Outside of any of these reasons, they don't recognize it as a reason for remaining in their country for any long period of time. So when people make the Hijrah today, they have the intention for Hijrah to leave their country, but there's people and the country to which they're arriving see them as foreigners who are going to be here temporary, and we don't have the freedom to practice the religion. So herein lies the problem. There's a disconnect. There's an asymmetry in regards to the understanding of the people making Hijrah and the people responsible, or the authorities in the land to which we're making Hijrah to. Because of that, there's a lot of problems that occur in the lives of the Muslims who are trying to stay and live in that country. So what's the solution? The solution is up to you, because you're going to find a lot of difficulty if you cannot get a permanent residence, a long-term residence in the country that you try to make Hijrah to. And of course that narrows it down, because most countries are not going to give you a long-term visa unless you're wealthy, right? An investment visa or something like that. Or maybe if you marry someone in that country, and in which case the next step is to get citizenship, and then okay, that's one way, and it's actually easier for women to do that than the women who want to make Hijrah, but it's also very risky for women. But anyway, this is all I wanted to point out, that there are no Ansar, very few Ansar. So people trying to make Hijrah today and thinking that they're going to be helpers, aiding them, supporting them. This is overwhelmingly not the case. You're going to be on your own and at a significant disadvantage. And that's the price you have to pay, right? Your Hijrah, inshallah, is still legitimate. However, it is lacking in terms of practical application due to the obvious restrictions that are part of the entire process. So, having said that, the only other options where lately there's been a opportunity for people to make this Hijrah is Russia. And there'll be another presentation about that, inshallah.